Is it emitting light? I don't know. How do I know if it's emitting
It doesn't
light?
seem like it is.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like it does. Let's assume there's no emitting light. Uh-huh.
Is there
There appears to be a power plug to it that is going to the Promethean. There's two things plugged into it.
okay.
That appear
So
to
it should
be
having the USB, right?
yeah.
Okay, so follow the power cord path. Make sure it's still plugged into is the Promethean board plugged in? Is that
The Promethean board is working.
The Promethean board is working.
okay? Hey, can we switch to video?
Uh-huh.
Plugged in.
I'm dialing you now.
It's plugged in. Confirm.
Hi, BB.
What were we missing before? Or is it?
It's
No,
all right.
it's on the left.
So these are the
Oh, I'm present.
excuse
Oh,
me.
right there.
Yes, you mean this.
Yes.
What do I press on it? We couldn't find a power button.
Hello.
Having technical issues.
I guessed when it didn't let me in at first.
Sorry.
I was afraid I had the wrong link.
No,
The first time I did have the wrong link because the main website,
Nothing
I
is happening.
accidentally clicked on the site council link because the Family Connections link wasn't visible on the main.
Like
Uh,
that looks like it's
Oh.
there's a color of like that.
you
Huh?
better
So
fix that.
let's move on to USB. USB's plugged in.
So we have a
FaceTiming
plug in
Andrew to try
here
to figure it out.
and a
Yeah.
plug in here.
Yep, so USB's plugged in. Follow that USB plug. And is that plugged into a computer?
I think this might be the other end.
What am I into?
Plug that into your computer.
Oh, there's a little microphone.
Oh, your default microphone has changed and Polycam will not be used. Is it using it?
I don't know.
Yes,
I
it
can-
is.
It is, because it's doing the weird.
Oh, it just zoomed on you for some reason. That's
Who
different.
does that?
And now I can do the volume on this thing.
Yes, you can.
So I don't have, I have the HDMI plugged in for some reason and that didn't help, huh? Oh, that's for the, okay, Andrew, that's for the board and yep, all right.
I think we got it now.
Well,
Thanks, Andrew.
sorry about that.
Thank you.
Congratulations, everybody.
Oh, plug it in, that's all you need to do. Oh, don't you hate that?
You got it. Got it.
Because we plugged it in.
You got it.
Right.
All
Oh
right.
my gosh. So, Opera doesn't want to just look at the ceiling.
Very boring.
Oh, there you go.
I was gonna say, I could probably that from this room, but I don't actually.
Oh, look, we all have our own.
I mean,
I'm
Why
really
should
glad we still have the remote option though, because I'm coming off of a nasty cold and probably highly contagious. So it's good that I'm not in the same room with you guys.
I'm glad you're not here.
Oh, isn't that just like a nice warm welcome? I'm so glad you're not
So
here. to
glad you
spread
didn't-
your germs.
Not coming.
Actually, that's a very loving thing to do. Thank you.
But when I did try to log in, so the principal, I think, sent out an email with upcoming events, and what she said for the link to connect to Family Connections was to go to the website. But if you just go to the Marcy Art School website, there's a link to Site Council, but there's no direct little box that links to Family Connections. It's like four clicks down, you have to hunt for it to get to the other website.
Yeah, you have to, or you have to. click on
have to-
Family.
Yeah, you have to click on the families tab and then the family connections tab.
And that's probably a little bit too much for most people to try and figure out if they're trying to join online for the first time.
Well, Jess is here. Jess, is it possible that we could move the family connections, like Zoom link, to be easier to find on the website than having to click through to the family connections webpage?
Yes.
Or can it be in the newsletter? Can the link go in the newsletter, or is there a reason it can't?
We
Or
could,
both.
Both would be fabulous, but if it could at least be like on the main,
Yeah, like have it be, the site council has a little box at the bottom.
oh, yes.
Opera was just saying it was a little hard to find on the website.
Yep, we'll make a family connections box like site council.
Awesome. Fabulous.
So you could put the Zoom link and the website. Wouldn't that be?
Andrew probably wants back.
I mean, does he really need us?
Come here tomorrow.
You got it.
Maybe next week.
Okay,
All right.
well, fabulous. Look at that, us solving world problems.
World problems.
World problems. All right, I think let's just do quick introductions, even though and maybe we can just say how we're doing. Opera, would you like to go first, since you are, Waz is here now too.
I need to change this so there's not a waiting room. It's annoying to me. Did I let you in? Oh, and Sonia.
Look at this.
Hey, we're getting people, fabulous.
Hey.
Hi, I am Abra Staffen Weeby. I am the secretary, so I'm trying to take notes. So if I ask you to spell your name, that's why. And I have a daughter who's in 3rd grade at Marcy right now, Thea Staffen Weeby. She is in Ms. Doty's class. Not sure how to pronounce the last name entirely. Doty. Ms. Doty's class. And that's me. So I don't know who wants to go next. Are we doing so?
Just call on people. Sonia,
Okay.
will you please go next? You can introduce yourself and share how you're doing if you'd like, or not.
Yeah, hi, I'm Sonia. I use any pronouns. I have a Marcy 1st grader. I'm sorry I'm late. I was just coming back from, there was this event at the Central Library tonight thrown by Decoding Dyslexia. It was super cool. It was a man who is dyslexic and graduated with like a 2nd grade reading level and was an adult before he got the literacy support he needed, that's not cool. But what is cool is that he's gone on to get his PhD in language and literacy and now is a coach. So that was very inspiring to get to hear his story. So I'm feeling pumped up right now after that and happy to be here.
Awesome. And we just got started because we were having some technical difficulties. So you're not late at all. Wow, would you like to go?
Hi, I'm Wa, and I go by she, hers, and I have a 2nd grader and a 1st grader at Marcy. What else? I'm very tired. We rushed back from the parent academy, so
Nice. Kate, she, her, have a 1st grader and a 4th grader, and fine.
Hi, I'm Jess. I am the assistant principal here at Marcy. I am feeling a little scattered because we just found out with the power outage at Davis Center that we are hosting some district-wide professional development tomorrow here at Marcy. So I have a list of things that I need to collect. And so my mind is kind of there because we just found out. But I'll try to be as present as possible here tonight as well. So glad you all can be here with us.
I am Carrie. I use she, her pronouns. I have a first grader and a fourth grader here. And I'm feeling just average, normal, nothing exciting. Steady.
I'm Suzanne. I use she, her. I have a high fiver in AZ's high five class and a kindergartner in Stacy's class. And I'm a fourth grader in another school. And I had a chance to volunteer this week in Stacy's class, which is so cool. It was so cool. And I got to watch a kid be dysregulated and be handled so lovingly and have the other kids be coached on how to support somebody who's not in their best place right at that moment. And it just was like, just so inspirational and cool. So that's how I'm feeling about things right now.
Awesome.
That's fabulous. I'm Claire. I use she, her pronouns. I have a second grader at Marcy and hopefully a kindergartner next year. We'll see. Okay. So fabulous. We have someone coming to our January meeting. Her name is Molly. She's a parent at Emerson Elementary, and she's been working with their parent family caregiver organization to kind of restructure them. I heard her speak through another organization and asked if she would come to speak with us to kind of share what they're doing and to see what might make sense that we could also do at Marcy to make things kind of more open and welcoming. But I am also, we don't have anything planned for the February through May meetings. So not to put on anyone on the spot, but just to start kind of thinking like, hey, I'd love to hear from somebody. Oh, no problem. I'd love to hear from somebody or get information about something. And then we can work on seeing if we can make that happen one Thursday evening this spring.
Transportation is always a hot button issue, but I'm not sure if you want to open that can of worms.
Yes, it is. It is a very hot button issue. And unfortunately, we're so disconnected from having control over it. So maybe it would be good to have somebody talk to us about, how that all works and the process and how we can advocate for getting change, because it has been such a headache this year.
So someone from like the district transportation office, is that somebody who might know something?
Possibly. Literally, I have one contact. That's really all that that's our one in. But yeah, it's interesting because I was talking to some folks from St. Paul Public Schools, and they don't seem to have the issues that we do with transportation. And so it was kind of like, it just caused me to wonder, how are they able to run successfully in an urban setting, and we struggle. So maybe we want to invite St. Paul.
So a couple of things I can share, and these are public knowledge if folks are interested in a couple of pieces of information related to transportation out of the last finance meeting. One is that if folks aren't aware at this point, MPS owns about 40% of our fleet in terms of our vehicles, and we contract the other 60%. And because of inflation being so off the wall right now, our contracted transportation costs have actually increased this year by 50%, 50. It is not like anything that has been seen previously. And at the last finance committee meeting, there was actually a vote to send forward an amendment for board consideration that would increase our allocation to transportation for this year, like $16 million, just to cover that increased cost, not to buy more transportation. So I know one goal of the district is to flip that 60-40, because that will help make us more inflation proof, but that's happening. The other thing that's happening is that family shelters are full in Minneapolis. And because it is our legal duty and ethical duty to provide transportation to students who attend Minneapolis public schools and qualify as homeless and highly mobile, a lot of those kids are being placed in family shelters, like in Minnetonka. So we have to taxi our kids back and forth from their shelter places in the suburbs. I can't speak on either of those counts, how we're different from St. Paul. I don't have that knowledge, but those are two major factors for this year that are particularly impacting transportation across the district.
Thanks for sharing that, Sonia.
Other ideas or suggestions that people have now for speakers?
I know I missed the meeting last year. It was last year, right, when the principals from some of the middle schools came and.
Oh, yeah, we had families from Franklin
Okay.
and Northeast Middle School, like
Okay.
parents.
Maybe something like that.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So the other thought is, this is about the time of year when parents who are going into schools, into Minneapolis public schools for the first time are looking for schools. So is there anyone, or like, who can we interview to make that a resource that's available for them to see what our school is like? Or what Minneapolis schools in general are like for their choice?
A lot of schools already have videos that kind of give that information that were created during the pandemic.
Seen them? They're pretty tours. They're usually not very helpful in answering actual questions that parents have.
I don't know that Marcy's is a tour. I think it's talking with staff and students.
Yeah, and we just did ours. I know that the previous one was just released on the MPS Facebook page, but we are, I know Hannah Edwards has almost completed the new updated one. And it is marketing time right now. So we're working closely with our marketing folks to we've got all that sort of in the works here of all of the things that we need to do as far as setting up open houses for prospective families and flyers, all of that marketing, the marketing pieces that will go out to families. So we're in that process right now with communications and our marketing folks.
Is there a way for parents to help too? Is there things that you from us?
Oh, yes. I mean, I am sure that there would be, I mean, it would be great is on that video to include some parent voices too, because I think that's really important. But maybe we do want to think about, during these open houses, if we can have like a space set up for families to connect with people who are here. And, even moving forward, if we could have like mentor families for our new families coming to Marcy. So, families who have been here can help new families navigate and understand some of the things that are a little trickier to navigate in just the school system in general. So, something thinking ahead would be a really cool thing to do.
Yeah. Do you have the dates yet for when Marcy is having those open houses?
Oh gosh, probably somewhere in one of my notes, but there are
You can,
about 70 tabs.
I was just gonna say, you can just let us know once, yes. When you readily have that information, if you let us know, we
I
can,
will.
we can go from there.
For other
Claire,
topics,
could we ask? Oh, I'm sorry.
Sonia, go ahead.
I was just gonna suggest Thaddeus from the Family Resource Center as a potential presenter for a future meeting. Family Resource, Minneapolis Public Schools Family Resource Center is out of Anderson, but it serves the entire district. And I've learned a lot from him and the services that they provide in the district. So that's one suggestion that I have. They do a lot of helping families, a lot of newcomer families who are new to Minnesota. A lot of families who need help accessing systems and services, like on the county level, is some of the work that they do. But they do cool stuff.
That sounds great. I mean, on the Facebook Minneapolis Public School Parents group, I've seen a lot of like, we're coming to Minnesota. What should we do? Kind of questions.
Awesome. If anyone has ideas that you think of later.
Suzanne, did you have one that you were gonna bring up?
Oh, sorry.
Just that, and maybe this will be addressed by the person that you have for next month, but I kind of came to Marcy through Integrated Schools Group and interested in having, like, making this a broader group and making this group reflect our student body more than it does currently, and how we do that, and how we create an environment in which that's the case.
That's where I connected with Molly, is through
Yeah,
integrated schools.
I wondered if
Okay,
she
yeah.
might be addressing.
Yep, and so, yeah. Yeah. But yeah, that's something that we've been trying to do, but
Yeah.
it just,
Yeah, and
Right.
honestly, I don't know the history of
Right.
it, and I don't know anything about it, but I just thought that'd be interesting to continue to explore.
yeah,
I don't know that this is the answer to that question, but I would love to talk about how we can have more communication with the whole student school body.
Mhm.
I mean, I feel like we've talked about this before, but you know, the shift away from having a weekly newsletter, while that I don't think was the solution, it feels like a really big gap.
Yeah.
And like sometimes I don't know, one time there was something from Trinity that she like called a newsletter. And I got really excited, but then it didn't seem like it happened again, so I'm not sure.
Sure.
It'd be great if we could have, and we talked about this last time too, but like ongoing communication.
Yeah. And I think that maybe would help get more participation in events like this, because even though the newsletters from Donna were dry and redundant, that redundancy, I think, like made people then remember, oh, this is happening, and just seeing it over and over again. So I don't know that we necessarily want to go back to that, but something similar would be nice, just so that people have access to that information, instead of often it feels like last minute and then people just kind of blow it off.
Yeah.
or already have something scheduled
Right.
because.
Yeah. Do we have the ability to have like a parallel? I'm have the comparison of having two schools, and my older kid has been at Scenic Heights since kindergarten, so we kind of have just a different frame of reference, but we get a weekly the equivalent of parent connection top 3, and it literally is 3 bullet points of the 3 main things that you're supposed to know what to, so you can slog through the newsletter if you have time and ability, but at least I always know when the fundraiser is and when it's read at school day, and like those things.
Yeah.
And that's done by the parents. That's not, like that's.
But then is it distributed to the whole
It is.
school body?
It is, and that's where the piece that I don't know. It's sent through the school, so it's sent through the school's mailing list, and I will admit I don't know the logistics of that, or
Right.
like.
Through, is it email or like physical
It's
paper?
an email.
Okay,
It's an email.
Okay.
And that's not to say that it couldn't be a physical paper copy, but it is an email in that format, but just to have something that is. Because I imagine, like you said, the 70 tabs open means that sometimes we
Right.
just can't do that stuff, but if there's any way that we can support those things.
I mean, could that be, is part of, I don't want to assume that part of the reason that there isn't that kind of ongoing newsletter or whatever is capacity, but is it somewhat capacity? Like if the family connections group, if we could commit to like, we could put together the content, and anybody who want, if Kathleen wanted to have something, if like whoever wanted to have something in it, if we compiled the content into something that could be emailed out, could then you or whoever
Yes,
powers that be,
yes.
send that out.
And let me circle back with Trinity, because I know that that was something that Aaliyah was, building up to. So, but I just want to be sure that that is followed through. Another thing that we do for our staff is just, we have a rolling Google Doc. And we call it the Marcy Minute. And so it's just every morning they open up that Google Doc and it's for that day. And it is kind of like the what you need to know for today.
Yeah.
Here's the staff who are out, here's what's going on. But something like that, I think would work well
Yeah.
too.
That format
for-
to me as a parent, like literally 3 bullet points, and there's of course a million other things going on. But those are the 3 that I just have to make sure that I keep in my mind. That
course,
format has
yeah.
worked well
Yeah.
for me.
Yeah,
Well, or if Aaliyah is already coming up with something, if that would be helpful for us to assist them, like to be a partnership
yes,
with Aaliyah
yeah,
to kind of ease the burden or share the load or insert your favorite thing there,
mhm,
you
mhm.
know?
Yeah.
Because we don't need to be having parallel things going on.
Absolutely.
Right,
We want to all have it be on the same page.
yeah, yep.
So,
So we can
I
support
like
what
that
she's doing.
idea. Yeah,
And
Yeah.
we have discussed having our own Parent Connections newsletter that people can sign up for independently, but obviously if we could get circulation through the school, that would be preferable.
Right.
yeah,
Either for us or for a Parent Connections corner in the
Yeah.
regular newsletter.
Yeah, I feel like between the folks involved or potentially involved in Family Connections, we could have the capacity, we just don't have the access.
yeah,
yep,
To set it out broadly.
right. That's the piece we're missing.
Yeah.
yeah, and that would be easy peasy. Yep, we could do that part, but yeah. I think having that collaboration would be really helpful. And then if it could be, set a specific timeline so that family feel like it's coming out this day, this day,
Yeah.
this day, yep. So, yeah. I'm gonna even circle it. Yeah, I will, I'll get on that and circle back with you all. As
Check
soon
in
as
with
I get.
Aaliyah.
I'm happy to work on if it's.
Yeah, me too.
Yep,
Cool.
awesome. All right. Anything else that anybody wants to share right now? Okay. Let us approve the November meeting minutes. And then I know Kate had a couple of different treasurer money things to bring up. So would someone like to say that they'd like to approve?
I propose that we approve.
I second. Carrie proposes and Kate seconds.
Does anyone object to approving the November meeting minutes? Then by default and unanimous consent, we all agree.
Yay, I love it.
Fabulous. Kate,
Did I have more than one thing? Remind me.
you wanted to talk about the
Yep.
banking and the accountant
Yep.
and maybe those were the only 2 things.
The banking as in, okay. You want to talk about it.
I do want to talk about the banking. I'd be happy to.
Okay, the first thing, so we currently, and we kind of inherited this structure. We pay monthly a bookkeeper, Martha, to like reconcile our books every month in QuickBooks. And I think that back when there was several bank accounts that the group was managing, including the Marcy Arts MAP partnership bank account that paid for residencies and artists and stipends and all that, that it was more useful because there was a lot of action and checks being written and whatnot. But that does not exist anymore. And we don't have a separate Labyrinth account anymore. We just have one account. And there's not a lot of action. I mean, I think I've written 6 checks so far in my tenure as treasurer. it seems like perhaps we are at a point in our life as a organization where we don't need to employ the services of a bookkeeper. It does end up being about between $100 and $150 a month.
Oh, wow.
Which seems like a lot of money for us and our budget. I feel very confident that we can handle it from a volunteer treasurer capacity. I would propose we still pay the bookkeeper that we have, the accountant that we have that does our tax preparation for us. The bookkeeper also kind of did like 1099s and whatnot for us, but again, that was more when we had artists that we were paying like several $1,000s every year. So I do know that last year when Sydney and in the past when Sydney was the family liaison, she was the one who was in charge of writing checks. Like she owned the checkbook, she did all of the ordering, that kind of thing. He doesn't do that, so I have the checkbook and I kind of all goes through me, so there isn't necessarily like confusion because it's just me, right? Like us. However, I do think one of the things I think that Sydney liked about having a bookkeeper was just having a check and balance, which I think is important. So Claire and I were texting a little bit about what we could do if I'm proposing not employing the bookkeeper because I don't think there's a need, but I would like to figure out if we don't have her services anymore, what a good check and balance is so that, you know, Marcy community and you all can feel confident in knowing that I'm not like writing my husband $500 checks every week or something like that.
I mean, if he provides artistic services to Marcy.
Haven't seen that yet.
No. Sonia, you have your hand up.
Sorry, I'm coming. I'm just trying to figure out how to lower my hand. Okay. Molly Dangler, when she comes next month, I was super interested in what they were doing with their parent group last year, and Molly invited me to attend one of their meetings so I could kind of see how they were beginning to reformat their group. I don't know if any of you remember me mentioning that, but it's exciting that she's coming to see us next month and tell us more about that. But I wanted to throw out that I remember from that meeting, they had come up with some ways to have sort of internal checks and balances on their finances and also use it as a way to provide some financial literacy and empowerment and, you know, like use it as an opportunity pertaining to diversity and equity on the board. So I agree with what you're saying and would add that it's something we should ask Molly about when she's here, because we might find that there are some ideas that translate well for us based on what they've been doing in that area.
Great.
Yeah,
I'd love to hear that. Maybe we just put it on hold for now, and since she's coming next month, chat with her about it then and see what they're doing, and then we can make a plan after that.
Yeah.
Okay.
When I was at Wyndham last year, we did not have a bookkeeper and we did not have an accountant. So we just had one of the parent volunteer to be the treasurer, and he kind of just used an Excel spreadsheet and put all of the information in there. Anything that needs to be a decision is brought to the board and discussed. And then each of the line items is presented at each of the meetings to kind of do the checks and balances to make sure everything is what it is. And but I mean, there are paperwork with the state filings and whatnot that he had to be in charge of. So yeah, that would
Yeah.
save a lot of money if we didn't have to pay externally to somebody.
Yeah.
And Kate's already been doing a lot of that already as treasurer. So it kind of seems like the bookkeeper is
Redundant.
duplicate.
Yeah.
Duplicative.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, she keeps track of things in QuickBooks, and I keep track of things in an Excel document because I will be honest, I don't always remember how to log into the QuickBooks, like log in
Yeah.
on the system that she sends me. So I put our 2 entries per month in the Excel document and feel pretty good about that.
Yep, so I agree that, I mean, I agree that we keep the accountant, but that the bookkeeper be on the table.
Okay, well then let's just hold this until next month, when we get a little bit more information, but keep it as an item to make a decision on next month. Okay. Cool. Cool, thanks everyone for their input. Oh, the other thing is, this might be a review for a lot of folks, but so while currently the amount of money in our kind of yearly budget is quite small, and typically we are approving a deficit budget the last few years since COVID, honestly, and since our group has been a little smaller and looked a little different. That has not always been the case in the past, in 10, 20 years ago. It's my understanding that Marcy had a really robust parent family council, whatever you want to call it, had many names, and used to do a fundraiser like gala every year for arts programming, but raised a lot of money, and had much bigger budgets every year. And as a byproduct of that, even though we don't raise much money every year anymore or spend a ton of money every year, although we are spending more than we raise, we are only doing that, we're only able to do that because we have a pretty considerable amount of money in our checking and savings accounts that is from like a decade plus ago. We have about $90,000 sitting there, which I would say is all money that is at least 10 years old in terms of when it was raised. So some of it is specifically earmarked for arts programming because it was raised by this other organization, well, this like subcommittee, the Arts Partnership, that got rolled into our account. But the point is, we have quite a bit of money. We've had conversations in the past about what we should be doing with that money, how we can more equitably use that money. I think that's something we should revisit. We kind of backed off of that conversation because it really got messy, and there was a lot of heated and differing opinions about that. I think we should have a conversation, maybe not today, but that should be on our radar in terms of what are the ethics of having that much money as a school? What are our plans for it? What do we want to do with it? But then also, because it's that much money sitting there, right now we're banking with Union Bank, which is just the like one down the street. And that's a lot of money to sit there and gain like 0.02% interest. So how can we better use the money that we have to make more money? Yes, so that's the Claire and Mike, who now we probably have to like officially remove Mike from.
I removed him from our emailing list, but I don't know.
School. Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Wait, why are you removing Mike?
Emmett no longer attends school here.
Oh. Well, that's not necessarily a boundary, but if Mike is obviously investing his time elsewhere.
Mike asked to be taken off because Emmett was no longer attending Mercy. That was a ask, not our ask.
Was he able to, he was looking into some financing options. Did he have anything to report back on that before that or no?
Not that I know of.
Okay.
You mean about the labyrinth stuff or?
No, just about like how to get a better return on our money while it's sitting in a bank. He was going to look into some of that.
Yeah, so I think, I mean, it's a little bit tricky because we're not an individual, we're a 501c3. So slightly different rules apply as a 501c3 versus an individual. But I would propose that we do something like an Ally Bank account with a high yield savings account where we can put a huge chunk of that money into the high yield savings account as a way instead of doing fundraising, let Ally pay us to have our money there.
Well,
Or some other
What is
account like
Ally?
that.
Is that a?
It's an online bank that has a high yield savings account at like 3% instead.
is it fully insured and everything and?
Yes, it's an
That is where I
FDIC.
keep my savings account.
Yep, it's where I keep mine too.
So the first question to consider on this, from my point of view, seems to be the question of how many years funding do we want to keep in the bank? Because that is a very basic question that is the foundation for figuring out what investments we have for, 50% of it, we won't touch for another 10 years. So we can clearly put it in this investment. 50% we want available, so it needs to be more liquid.
Well,
So that's-
and I guess what I was proposing was something even more simple than that. And just changing the banking location from the current bank that we have that offers no anything to a bank like Ally or something else. It's still a standard checking and savings where we can pull out as much as we want or not. There's no kind of penalty for withdrawing, if it's less than 3 years or 5 years or 60 days or anything like that. It's still a standard checking and savings account. It just has a better interest rate. And it doesn't have to be Ally, but just some financial institution with a higher return.
Probably best to do some due diligence and research a few options. I can task myself with that as treasurer.
Well, and I
Yeah.
think because it was my kind of push that I offered to as well, so I will not put my idea and make it into somebody else's work, but.
Is there, I don't know, are there specific funds for nonprofits that have different interest rates? Does anybody know that? I feel like.
NerdWallet was giving me some of that information in a couple articles that I was reading. And then my paycheck job demanded my attention.
Absolutely.
So my research was
yeah.
rather limited.
Okay.
I mean, I
I
don't
have one place I can check too. So.
think,
Okay.
Yes.
I mean, like every nonprofit I've ever worked for has either used like Bremer or Wells Fargo or, like the
Yeah.
big ones.
Okay. We all check one thing, then maybe we
Yeah.
send it all to you and synthesize it.
But I would love to have at a future meeting, maybe we can have like a finance meeting
Yeah.
focus of one night where we just talk about like some of the questions that you just brought up, Abra, about like, so this is the amount of money that we have. What do we want to kind of save and kind of project out, like if we have this much, it'll get us through this many years. I think we also need to talk about like what kind of support we're able to provide, Marcy, because right now our budget is kind of modeled after raising $30,000 a year, and we struggle to raise like $7,000 a year these years. So, while I would love to maintain all of the ways that we've been helping the Marcy community and Marcy staff, like I don't think we're gonna run out of money if we continue to have $26,000 budgets and bring in $8,000 every year. So we need to figure out how to write that a little bit more, while also understanding that we do have a pot of money sitting there, and then have some conversations also about like, how do we feel about having $90,000 as one Minneapolis public school parent council?
I wonder if we ought to have, instead of it being like our February meeting or our March meeting, we have a separate meeting in February or March.
Yeah.
Where we just have a second meeting that month where it is just on finances. So that we can give it the time and attention that it needs.
And make it an annual meeting.
Is there a history of like, what were the traditional fundraisers that merited this? You mentioned the gala.
Yep, there was
What has
a
this
gala, there was always a fall fun fest,
Yeah.
which wasn't a huge fundraiser, but it brought in a couple of $1,000s. It was a big event.
Yeah.
There was a plant sale for many years that brought in like $10,000 to $15,000. And then there was like the Scholastic Book Fair.
But it was really the arts gala that brought in huge amounts.
I think the
of
gala
money.
alone brought in like $30,000 to $40,000.
And was that a spring thing or what?
Like a late winter, early spring
Okay.
thing. That was a huge thing and not really equitable, but brought in a lot of money and was a social event
Like a
for
social
some
event.
families.
I don't know. Redistributing the wealth seems equitable to me.
What-
Take from those who have and redistribute it.
Well, the ticket prices were quite expensive, so
Yeah.
not everybody was
Yeah,
able
it
to
felt like,
attend.
it felt like a not open to the whole school kind of thing.
Yep.
And how do things like more traditional, like fun run, fundraiser type things, how does that work in this kind of school? Is that something that's good? Is that, you know what I mean, that where the kids are involved in it, is that a goal to have, or does that not work very well in this kind of setting?
So one of the things I think we want to think about with that is if we are going through an organization, which a lot of those are, you know, like you sell the wrapping paper or magazines or whatever. The school itself gets very little of that money back. So I think that that's something to consider.
I think it depends on the specific thing. I think it's true if you're selling stuff, but something literally like how many laps do you run in the gym and then
Sure.
we raise money. The yield's pretty good, at least in my experience, but I
Actually,
also think
the fun run from last year that we did at Wyndham, it did bring in a lot of money. But like Claire said, the school did not get, like the PTO did not get much money back because it was like 50% of it went back to the organization that put it up.
I think
and-
it for sure how you do it. And if you hire one of those that, yes, you get
Yeah.
the benefit of all the coordination and that's amazing. And that might not even be a bad place to start because the coordination is a lot. And yet, the yield is, even if you're getting 50% of that, that has potential to be a pretty big fundraiser. I also think it's really nice, like a community thing. That said, it relies on families raising funds among family and friends, and that then the equity issue is always going to be an issue. So I was just curious how that lands for people, or if that's been tried before here. Does anyone know the history of that?
I think honestly, the demographics of our school look a lot different than they did before the pandemic and before the CDD. So we haven't tried or had events like that with a population that looks similar to the population that we currently have. So I feel like the answer is we don't know.
Maybe we could check with Aaliyah about her perception of how, if that would be welcomed or.
Yeah, it's a good idea.
Okay, would that be okay if I did that?
Yeah, for sure. When I was at Pillsbury, they do a spring carnival, and it really, in the 3 years that I was there, it exploded. It's amazing.
Yeah.
It is amazing. And it's really kind of like, you know, grassroots efforts of their family council and staff, and yeah, it's a pretty fantastic event.
And Fall Fun Fest was like that, like it was a huge turnout
Okay.
always. Like Kate said, I don't know that it brought in a ton of money, but
Yeah.
it raised some funds, but it had a very large turnout. Again, that was,
chaos.
it was chaos, it was total chaos. But again, that was like pre-pandemic, and our demographics have changed, like everything has changed so much here that we don't know what it would look like if we did that again. And we also don't have the same numbers in parent council, because it was like a separate subcommittee that was organizing Fall Fun Fest, and it's a ton of work, and there's have to be of us.
But once we start getting a weekly newsletter. In
That's right.
partnership with our
Things are
family
gonna change.
liaison, and then we're gonna get so many people who want to be involved, and they'll bring great ideas and energy.
Yes.
We'll have the Fall Fest like every 3 weeks.
That will be the solution to all of our
Fall
problems.
Fun Fest in February.
Yeah. Who doesn't want to love fall in the middle of winter?
Just very briefly, I just wanted to mention we had kind of thought about planning 3 different events for the spring. One in February, one in March, and one in May. To kind of coincide with Black History Month, Disability Awareness Month, and Asian American Pacific Islander month. And I was talking with, not to put you on the spot or anything, Wa, but I was talking with Wa about this a while ago, and one was like, I know Japanese dancers. And how cool would that be if we could figure out and coordinate with them in May? And so my intention was not to kind of do all of the planning now, but maybe to see if anybody was interested in kind of heading or taking the lead on any of those events, kind of like what we did with Tall Paul in November, to work on finding an artist of some sort. We've done music, so not to say we can't do music again, but there's so many different forms of art, like dance or visual arts or theater or I don't know. But if anyone was interested to kind of move things along, there's also a Marcy parent who was talking about spoken word, and so I was going to circle back with her as well to see if she was still interested or available or wanted to talk more about that. But
What kind of budget is available for those kinds of events?
oh, well, we not have created one.
Okay. I was just trying to get a sense of ballpark, like what the expectations for artists, because there's a big range of what's available.
Yes.
Well, so I mentioned we have, so when the MAP account closed, they rolled that into our account with the distinct clarification that it needs to be used for arts programming. So that's what we used to pay Tall Paul.
Okay.
So there's about $30,000 in there. I don't think we want to use all that this year, but like,
That's,
I don't think that that's money that we can talk about like using for anything else other than just at Marcy, just arts programming. So there is that. I mean, I think we could feel confident that with 3 more events, we could spend $3,000 to $5,000 or something, you know?
Like, I know a lot of authors and illustrators, and there are things that can happen, but we do need to have a budget and to know what we're offering and what we're asking before those conversations start.
We also have to have ideas and connections so that we know where we can reach out to.
full circle. So are you envisioning this being a monthly all school community event, kind of like the Tall Paul thing was, but monthly for each theme? Is that?
Yeah, but I mean, not every month, but just, and if not all 3 of those happen, then not all 3
Wait,
of
but
those
why
happen.
not every month?
Sonia, would you like to do that? Would you like to be in charge of that?
I asked a question from a place of curiosity only.
Hearing clarify.
I think there's a capacity thing to have it happen every month.
Tall Paul was really fun.
It was.
It was amazing and awesome. It was also a lot
So
of work to.
Oh,
We need bands.
Now I understood why all the kids were like in t-shirts on picture day. My kids were like, it was so hot in there, I had to take my sweatshirt off.
It was really hot in there for picture day because of all the lighting too.
no, but Sonia, it was, I was so excited with the number of families there, the
Yes.
enthusiasm of the
Yes.
kids. Yeah, it was great. Paul was great. Go with the flow. I'm just gonna change, have all these kids up on stage dancing. Yes.
The best,
Yeah, it was super fun.
the best. My 2-year-old was totally getting it down in the hallway. Shaking his little booty.
I'm very angry to leave. Okay. My
So
first
does
grader has
anyone-
his Tall Paul poster up by his bed. It's signed.
Love it. Did anyone want to take the lead on planning any of those?
I'm interested, but this is where I feel like having having broader input is so
Yeah.
important, and it'd be nice to get that step first of reaching out more broadly to the community about the many people that we have that have that expertise already kind of banked.
Just do shake cages, kids still go to this school. You know?
What are their names?
What were their names? Do you remember?
No, but I think their oldest one, like, I think they only have one because their oldest is beyond 5th grade. But I also know that Butchie, who is a local
He
musician
is a musician.
and does a ton of stuff, especially with like the Solidarity Brass Band, his kids go to
Yes,
Marcy.
they do. Yep, he would be a good.
Andrew has a text relationship with him.
One of the things too, when we met this past week with our SEL and equity team, and looking forward to ways to recognize some of these things that we were talking about. Slice Pizza, just over here, is an amazing local Black-owned business that it's a hop, skip, and jump away. They warmly welcomed, I can't remember what grade level. Maybe
Stacy,
Stacy,
kindergarten.
yeah. Yes.
Them all.
Yes. And they, from that experience, because the kids did some artwork and they were so happy to hang it up in there, and they talked to her about doing, like, we'd love to work with you again in the future, kind of, that broad thing. But that was brought up, like, if we have food at the next event, they'd be great to connect with just because they're right there. And we'd love to really work on building that symbiotic relationship with them, because they're just fantastic. So. And it's pizza. Who doesn't love pizza?
My 8-year-old, but that's not the point of this conversation. Yes, okay, so connect with and work with Slice Pizza for food.
So when we're talking about food, I would like for the month of May, like to do like a cultural night or something and would it be possible to get parent involvement of like volunteering to make a cultural dish, but like I don't know how that works with cooking, with the food and stuff, but like give them a small budget to bring in and do a little poster board about their country. Because I hear from my kids that when they wear their cultural stuff to school, they get teased. And that's not what I want to hear. Because she was like, well, I was like, well, did you explain to them what it means in your culture? And she was like, well, they didn't care. And so I think it's a good idea to be able to broaden everybody's perspectives and open minds to learn about each other's culture and heritage, and to be able to welcome everyone.
We used to do that. We did that too at Pillsbury. We did a family culture and heritage night. And it was really cool. And it was like a potluck, but then also, families would set up different sort of booths of different experiences to showcase the heritage of their family. And it was pretty neat. It was a really neat experience. The thing that we ran into is for the kids that can't participate, it's or don't have those families to like support and bring things in to share. And also when we talk about our African American community, sometimes there is, when we talk about heritage, there's some it's a sensitive area if there's not lineage or knowledge of that. But I think it is important to honor and share what we do have here. And so I think if we could do something like that, it would be really awesome, and just be cognizant of some of the things, some of the little nuances that might come up that we want to be sensitive to. But I think it is a great experience for kids to do. What we did too is we created, because we have all the flags out here, but just having those flags and not really connecting to them doesn't necessarily mean much. But having flags with, connections to actual students and having that as a display, kids really had that sense of pride walking into school, like, that's my flag, and we've got like 11 nations, tribal flags in the gym, and some of our students are really proud when they walk in there and they see their tribal flag. So yeah, I think if we can start having events, but also representing cultures throughout the building would be really cool too.
So say a $200 per family stipend, and maybe like a passport book that kids stamp when they sample the food from a different country might be an
Yep.
idea to encourage them to actually be willing to try different foods. We just have to consider our budget and how many families could we stipend at that rate, and do we want it to be only the families we're stipending, or a potluck for everybody, and certain families have special displays that we support?
I think we'd have to see how much interest we had.
Yeah,
And is $200 a reasonable amount for someone to do a featured display, or does it need to be more, or?
yeah, I think maybe if there was a set amount, and then whoever was, willing to do it, we could divide that amongst those.
Yeah, or put out 200 or whatever as
Yeah.
as an amount, and then if someone expressed interest and was like, but I would need 400, be like,
And whatever template we come up with for this event, we can obviously duplicate it to other regions if we want to have a different regional potluck, depending on what the featured area of the world is, or the featured family history, which is saying make your own family's traditional foods is maybe a little bit friendlier for folks who have been disconnected from their original past, and for people who aren't.
Abra's just getting over a cold, so unfortunately may have hit a coughing fit right in the middle.
I love this idea for,
Yes,
You
I
okay?
talk too much. My throat got mad at me.
I feel like we could, since there's interest for this particular kind of event, for the May event, like when we have a lot of time before May, like see if they'll start putting the word out there and go with this kind of a format, and then if it's successful, then maybe next year we do a couple of them done this way.
I think we can, in the principal's newsletters or whatnot, when she sends it out with the different languages, to say, ask parents, families who's interested in representing their country, to showcase, and then then we start planning.
Yeah.
And a lot of people have small scale catering in a lot of communities. So some of those families, I'm sure, are among us.
Feel free to continue.
They're all
I have to
among
go
us.
grab the rest of the materials that they'll need so that we can get out of here and not make Selena stay till.
Do we, can I ask one last question?
Yeah.
Do you have like a current demographics of the school for this
Yeah.
school year?
Yeah.
Can those be shared with us? Just to get a sense of like, what does our student population
For
look like,
sure.
and what do we really like, what should we be focusing on?
I have to be like totally honest. I hate the way Minneapolis does
Well, of course.
demographic.
Of course you do. I'm sure it's
Because-
really shitty.
Because it's recorded.
Yeah. You say negative things about the district.
It just, and I think it's the same in a lot of places, but when we have like checking a box for African American, I mean, it just is, we have, it's so limiting and, it's, and then there's a box for like 2 or more.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah. Which two?
Right.
Yeah.
So.
Well, or like this isn't a pizza combination,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Like,
Right. So it just is, yeah.
Yeah.
So we could get that information. I don't know how much. I mean, when I look at like when we look at like our American Indian population, that's helpful. And then we talk with our families to determine like tribal information, but it just is in other demographic categories. It just, it's so broad.
Yeah.
So, but yes, I've got it. Long story short.
Maybe not as useful as.
Minneapolis is so great.
It's our favorite.
I'm gonna go get markers for them.
thanks, Jess. All right. All right, great. We have lots of ideas and plans and things to follow up with different people.
Yep, sounds good.
I've entered my slab happy phase. Anyone else want to add anything?
Not me.
All right. Thank you, my friends, for joining us this evening. And have a fabulous winter break.
Hey, you too.
Hey,
It's coming right up,
thanks.
isn't it?
Sure is.
Oh yeah, this is the December meeting.
It is. School next week. Nothing
Quick
after
question.
this?
How are we collaborating with this, with on-site council? How does site council and family connections work together with school activities?
So up until this year, they were kind of the same organization, but kind of not. And they've kind of been separated out this year and we're still figuring that out. However, just as a plug, the site council meeting is a week from today, next Thursday at 6 p.m., but it's only going to be virtual. So the answer is we don't have an answer and that we're trying to figure it out.
Sounds good.
But that was super helpful.
Exactly what you want. Okay,
All
let's
right.
stop our recording.
Fabulous.
Okay. Bye, you two.
Have a great night.
Bye. Have a good night.
I'm just gonna read every book.